Bringing characters back from the dead for some online outrage. Sad. Just sad. Now available in paperback and e-readers. Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess. The goddess next door takes on the threat of a deadly digital diva driven to destroy the world in this action-packed, all-new Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess featuring a bonus pin-up and the other two books in the Cyber Goddess saga at online booksellers everywhere today. Better get the cool slow, y'all, cause we're having us a barbecue. Recently, Marvel Comics announced it's bringing back Gwen Stacy from the dead, and she would be the new Gwenpool. Now, Gwen Stacy is known for being Peter Parker's girlfriend in early issues of Spider-Man, and tragically losing her life in the iconic Spider-Man 121, where Peter Parker is facing off against the Green Goblin, and as he tries to save her life, he finds out that his girlfriend wound up dying when she fell off a bridge. And that moment in history is considered one of the defining moments of Peter Parker's life, and basically led to Peter Parker once again learning the hard lesson of, with there being great power, there being great responsibility. However, that doesn't really seem to matter for the editors at Marvel, who are desperate to go out here and cause a lot of outrage as related to trying to get people interested in their comics. Now, when I heard about this whole decision to bring Gwen Stacy back from the dead, it had me shaking my head, and it had me shaking my head because it basically looks like the people at Marvel can't seem to get out of the 1990s business approach as related to storytelling, where they go out here and look to use gimmicks to try to shock people and generate a lot of controversy. Unfortunately, those controversies really don't go out here and create a foundation for generating sales. Now, the critical question I have to ask as related to Tom Brevoort and the people at Marvel is, what are you trying to do as related to bringing Gwen Stacy back from the dead? Yeah, bringing her back as a Deadpool-style killing machine will again generate a lot of controversy, but the critical question I have to ask is, what audience are you trying to sell to? And I ask that question because, as a publisher who's been in the business for over 15 years, when I look at this decision to bring the original Gwen Stacy back from the context of time, it really doesn't make much logical sense. And it doesn't make much logical sense because the people who knew about Gwen Stacy's death are basically, they saw this happen in the early 70s, and most of the people who that death resonated with are basically in their 70s. So the customer you're trying to appeal to has basically got one foot in the grave and another on a banana peel. And they're the only people who know about Gwen Stacy to actually care about her. So this decision, again, is one that's very mind-boggling to me because this isn't the kind of decision that's going to appeal to the younger comic reader who is not read a Spider-Man book from that early series of runs of John Romita, the late John Romita, one of the great comic artists of all time, and Stan Lee and Gil Kane. I mean, that was a completely different era that was almost 50 to 60 years ago, and the people who would care about Gwen Stacy being resurrected are basically, again, in their 60s and 70s. So basically, Marvel is trying to create a controversy, but that controversy is one that's going to fall on deaf ears because the readers you're trying to appeal to are basically elderly, and those elderly people, yes, they may care, but the whole thing is that that's not the customer you really want to go out here and appeal to, because your goal should be trying to appeal to the younger readers who basically have large amounts of disposable income and want to go out here and possibly pick up comics. Unfortunately, the whole decision to bring an old character from over 50 years ago back from the dead basically is one that's not going to appeal to the younger readers who are out here buying manga, and buying manga because the comics are easier to follow. Easier to follow because the storytellers there are very consistent in their storytelling, and as they are consistent in their storytelling, those stories are easier to follow because when it comes to those storytellers, they don't come out here with gimmicks like going out here and saying, we're going to resurrect a character who's been dead for over 50 years and has basically been forgotten by most readers who have not been reading comics since the 1980s, which is 45 years ago almost. I mean, this whole decision to bring back Gwen Stacy is really mind-boggling to me because it's not one that is going to generate any sort of sales as related to the business. No, it'll generate a lot of controversy as related to a lot of people going out here and writing clickbait articles, which will get a lot of hits, and that will lead to them getting a lot of ad money. And the same thing for YouTubers being able to make a lot of AdSense dollars by making videos about being outraged regarding Gwen Stacy. But Marvel as a publisher won't be making much money as related to this book, which will basically start out with a number one with possibly maybe 10,000 sales, then have a precipitous drop off like many other books where those books basically drop like a rock. And this whole story will basically be forgotten because the problem at Marvel is that their editorial are not good storytellers. Yeah, they'll give you Gwen Stacy as a Deadpool-style killing machine from Weapon X, but what they won't do is give the character a mission and answer a critical question I have to answer every time I put a finger to the keyboard, and that is, why should we care? And they also won't give the character a mission where it basically makes us want to go out here and pick up their stories, nor will they give her a rogues gallery of characters to go out here and have feuds with. This is not the kind of meticulous care that comic book companies put into their characters that I do over at SJS Direct, and because they don't go out here and put that kind of care in these books, they make these shock gimmicks that again will generate sales for a moment, but what will eventually wind up doing is after you get over the initial shock, you find out how bad the quality of the book is, and it really again de-incentivizes people to go out here and buy Marvel Comics, and that runs diametrically opposed to the comic book business, because the comic book business is all about sales, and the goal of a publisher is to again go out here and build up that buzz and anticipation to generate those sales. But sadly, Marvel's editorial is stuck in the 1990s with this extreme version of Gwen Stacy. Again, a desperate attempt to try to get people excited about comics, but the only people who would get upset or even concerned about Gwen Stacy from the 616 are basically people who again are almost 70 to 80 years old, because those are the people who basically again grew up with Gwen Stacy. But because most people only know Peter Parker being with Mary Jane, most of us Gen Xers, Millennials, Gen Z, and even Generation Alpha, most of us know Peter Parker with Mary Jane. So this decision is one that's head-scratching to me, but it shows me the dire state of the comic book industry and how desperate people are. Shows me how desperate people are because they know that the House of Ideas ran out of ideas far back as about 1995, when they basically, again, editorial realized that they didn't know what they were doing when they went out here and tried to change Marvel's editorial style. And basically everything has fallen apart for Marvel ever since Jim Shooter got fired in 1987, because at least with Jim Shooter in charge, we would have gotten some quality storytelling and he would have maintained some standards. But this whole thing with Gwen Stacy basically shows me the desperation of Tom Brevoort and those running Marvel to try to generate some sort of sales and generate some sort of press, because what's happened is that the readers of Marvel have become so apathetic and indifferent to these stunts, that they stopped caring about Marvel all around, and that reflects in the sales that they try to hide as related to the numbers. Basically, when you have under 300 comic book stores, the sales just aren't there. And it's not there because they continue to pull these kinds of stunts, where they try to shock the reader into saying, oh, a character who's was considered permanently dead is back once more. And people just now are just saying meh to that, because we know it's again another desperate attempt to try to generate buzz, but you're generating buzz with the wrong audience, because the people you're trying to generate a buzz with, again, their median age is 50 years old, and those are the people who knew who Gwen Stacy was, and most of the people who read Spider-Man back in those 60s and the 70s when Gwen Stacy was alive, again, most of those people are on their way to dying. So you're trying to appeal to an audience that isn't even alive, and that's mind-boggling to me. You're trying to say we're bringing back a character from the dead, but that character's audience is basically gone, and it really shows how out of touch Tom Brevoort and the people running Marvel are as related to the publishing business. They are just so out of touch with their readers that instead of trying to go out here and create stories that show us, action and adventure and make us see how great Spider-Man is, no, what they do is go out here and keep trying to milk the nostalgia train, hoping that they can go out here and milk it for some controversy, but that controversy is something that's not really gonna, again, get any buzz. I mean, yeah, it'll help me make a video that possibly will be low viewed, because when it comes to comic videos on this channel, they barely get under 100 views. So I look at this whole decision, and again, it shows me how the problem at Marvel aren't the characters, it's the editors, the creators, who have no creativity or imagination, because when you gotta bring characters back from the dead, it shows that there's no live creativity at that comic book business. Now, my first full comic, John Haynes at Death's Door, is available on Lulu.com in paperback, and you can pick up a copy for the same price as the 2022 Kickstarter. And my digital comic, Esteem No Good Deed, is available on Kindle for just 99 cents, and you can get a paper version for $8.99, I believe, in the book Esteem Blast from the Past. And you can pick up many of the books in the SJS Direct universe where characters do not come back from the dead, outside of the Cyber Goddess and Esteem, which is par for the course for bad guys. And again, those you can find the books in the SJS Direct universe, such as those in the ISA series, such as in the Steam series, and the John Haynes series, the books of the Spinsterella trilogy, my vampire novel Eternal Night, and my sorority novel The Thetas. You can find all those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format, and you can also find them in digital format on Google Play and Draft the Digital and its affiliates, such as the iBookstore and the digital platforms all over. And you can also find them at paper back at places like Barnes & Noble and Books A Million, Walmart, and Target. And if you'd like to see me do more videos taking the comic book industry to the barbecue, and also want to help me out by being able to pay for interior art for SJS Direct books, and be able to support comic artists, or help me support other people's crowdfunding projects, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available on Lulu, John Haynes at Death's Door. The man who rules the world takes on the Greek god of death in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes comic book. Get your copy of the first John Haynes comic at Lulu.com today. Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, Isis, All That Glitters. The goddess next door takes on a bikini-clad bank robber in this action-packed, all-new Isis series adventure. Get Isis, All That Glitters in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. Now available in paperback and e-readers, E-Steam Horror of the Hyena Woman. Hell's aspiring angel takes on a wicked werewolf in this action-packed, all-new E-Steam series adventure. Get E-Steam Horror of the Hyena Woman in paperback and e-readers today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.